Iran has lived inside the US regime change playbook for 73 years. In 1951, Mohammad Mossadegh, who was Iran's democratically elected prime minister, moved to nationalize the Anglo-Iranian Oil Company. The Anglo-Iranian Oil Company still exists today. You know it as BP. BP standing for British Petroleum. So there's already an issue here with the name Anglo-Iranian British Petroleum. What are you doing here in another nation, Felicia? Brits at it again. Mossadegh wanted to audit the Anglo-Iranian Oil Company to verify that royalties were actually going to Iranians. AIOC refused, so Iran voted to kick out the foreign national corporations and nationalize their oil. The contracts that AIOC operated in Iran in the 50s were violent exploitation. Iranians got minimal royalties while Britain extracted massive profits. In 1948, Venezuela had negotiated a 50-50 profit split with oil companies. Mossadegh proposed the same, and the British refused. And the British organised a global boycott against Iranian oil. The British Prime Minister at the time, Clement Attlee, had considered seizing the world's biggest oil refinery by force, but chose this economic strangulation instead. And it worked. Iran was not able to sell its oil abroad. The US government under the Truman administration actually considered siding with Mossadegh. The US State Department rejected Britain's demand that it remain the primary beneficiary of Iranian oil. The United States sees an opportunity for US oil companies to move in. So the potential siding with Mossadegh by the Americans is not for the love of Iranians. It is because America and American corporations have been procuring British colonies since the war. Then in 1953, Winston Churchill comes back. Winston had been instrumental in the founding of the Anglo-Iranian Oil Company. It was him who switched the British Navy from coal-powered vehicles onto oil. Under Winston Churchill, UK intelligence officials convince Washington that Mossadegh is a communist and under Soviet control or influence. And together, Churchill and Eisenhower decide to overthrow Iran's government. The CIA initiated Operation Ajax and MI6 initiated Operation Boot. Together, in August 1953, they executed a coup. The CIA funded agents that created political unrest and harassed religious and political leaders. They ran huge disinformation campaigns and Mossadegh gets overthrown. In the name of freedom and democracy, they restore the Shah, a dictator. Mohammad Reza Pahlavi then rules Iran as America-friendly until 1979. Shortly after the Shah is reinstalled, 5 major oil companies are granted licenses to operate inside Iran. These include Dutch Royal Shell and Compagnie Française des Pétroles. America has no loyalty. If you've got money, you're in. For Iranians, this was proof that America did not care about democracy, would destroy democracy and install a dictator for resource access. And this remains a defining grievance for Iranians. You're a fraud! So by 1979, things are very not okay in Iran. In November 1979, Iranian students storm the US embassy and hold 52 Americans hostage for 444 days. Then, in February 1979, Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini, excuse the pronunciation, establishes the Islamic Republic. From this point, Iran becomes explicitly anti-Western and anti-American. The revolution ends US imperial influence in Iran. Skip forward to 1980, Saddam Hussein invades Iran. He claims this is about border disputes, but it is obviously empire. For Saddam Hussein, this is about territorial gain, Iran supporting Kurdish insurgents, and blocking the spread of the Islamic revolt. At this point, Washington 100% supports Saddam Hussein. Like fully supports him. By now we're at Ronald Reagan, who is so afraid that any kind of victory to Iran is going to fireball the Islamic revolt in the Gulf. Every source that I'm reading from always puts Islam at the center of this revolution. That's misleading, probably very intentionally so. We have to put the religious labels down for a second. The US was extracting from Iran for decades That is what united the people into protest. Washington is not intervening and backing Saddam Hussein because they care about Islam. They care about oil and profits and access and world domination. As late as 1989, the US is still providing Iraq with intelligence, with declassified CIA documents encouraging the use of noted nerve agents. Let's talk about the scale of the backing and how it defies all left, right, east, west, capitalist, communist narratives. Because Saddam Hussein got $40 billion in military aid from Russia. It also got $1 billion from Saudi Arabia and $1 billion from the United States. Despite the propaganda that framed the US as Iraq's main backer, it was actually the Soviet Union. However, it is US intelligence and targeting assistance that enabled Iraq's use of chemical weapons, a war crime. Hold on to that. The US enabled Saddam Hussein's war crime. After 8 years of this and 1 million people dead and no territorial changes, Iran survives, but it is economically devastated and angrier at American imperialism than ever before. Throughout the 90s, the economic abuse of this country by the United States continues. They hammer Iran with sanctions all through the 90s, freezing assets, blocking them off SWIFT, cut from global banking, not allowed to sell their oil, massive propaganda campaigns against them. SWIFT is a financial messaging system that processes international payments. Cutting a country off from SWIFT immediately freezes their ability to do any international trade. This should be also categorized as a war crime. Economic warfare is real. We act like it has no impact, but removal means that country cannot trade, import or export any goods with anybody. What gives America the right to block trade between a country on the other side of the world and its neighbours? Iran has been the victim of US regime change since 1953. Every crisis, from the CIA coup to the Islamic Revolution to the Iraq War, cutting them from SWIFT, collapsing their currency, hitting them with sanctions, hitting them with drones. Every single crisis Iran has faced, including the current one, was caused by US interference and external pressure. All good propaganda uses a kernel of truth to sell you a fiction. You have to hold the nuance in your head, right? Yes, Iranians can be mad at their government. Yes, there is corruption and economic abuse and ridiculousness. But what is causing the economy to crash out is the 70 years of US imperial brutality against Iran. What the CIA do is they wait for you to get a little bit pissed off with your government so they can inflame it. US sanctions are specifically designed, as admitted by US officials, to cause mass misery that fuels social discontent to the point of igniting protest.